This is actually more than 20 tips, but 20 is a nice round number for a YouTube title, isn't it? Gotcha. I've split all of these tips for Ghost of Tsushima into 4 categories: exploration, upgrading Jin, combat, and like a miscellaneous section. So, let's go. Exploration. When you're exploring with Jin, you should wear the Traveler's Attire, as it does vibrate when you get near artifacts, but it also helps with the fog of war in the map, which is something that a lot of maps have gotten away from actually, but there is fog of war as you explore. You will unlock those areas of the map to actually see what's happening around you. You can also switch your armor at any time, so even if you start combat in the Traveler's Attire, you can switch to a more defensive armor if you like, so there is no restrictions here. Smoke signals will be seen throughout the map. You should definitely go to those locations and investigate. There will always be something at the end of those areas. As you all know, you follow the guiding wind to your objectives, but in your technique points, there is an exploration section where you can use a technique point to learn the ability to use that wind to take you to one of these exploration locations like fox dens or the haiku locations, etc. I would not recommend to waste your tech points into these, as you will find them naturally throughout the world. This is more of a late game thing when you haven't got anything to spend your tech points on, so that you can actually find some of the upgrades that you may have missed. You will find them throughout the world. They are very easy to spot. Speaking of these locations, the key ones you need to look out for upgrading Jin is the fox dens to increase how many charms you can have equipped at a time, the hot springs to increase your maximum health, and you also get some backstory about Jin there, which is really nice, and the bamboo strikes, which will increase your resolve. There are other locations in the world which will have visual cues, like the golden birds. Following them will lead you to the haiku locations, where you'll write a poem and get a new sick headband. You can also use your photo mode to help you scout when you're in a high location. You can zoom in pretty far with the photo mode, which will allow you to scope out locations when you're a fair distance away and just kind of see what's around you in the map. Upgrading Jin. The primary way to upgrade Jin is by completing the tales, whether it's the main missions, which are Jin's story missions shown by the yellow markers on the map, the side tales, which are marked by grey markers, or the mythic tales, which are blue. The mythic tales is something that you should do immediately as soon as you unlock them. These are great upgrades for Jin, and they are limited to only a few of them. It is worth doing these as soon as you have them available to you. The way you find these missions and other side missions is by talking to NPCs that have the little talk bubble above them. They will usually tell you some backstory and tell you where a side mission or a mythic mission can be found. New gear comes with time and by completing these tales, like the mythics or the side missions or even the main missions. Early on, your kit is pretty limited to a standard samurai, as that is what Jin is, but as you advance through the story, you'll be learning new techniques, new abilities that you can use. The key one is the bow, which you get very early on, but you'll also learn other ghost abilities and other things throughout your journey. Upgrading your gear is the next step in upgrading Jin, and this is done by the materials that you find throughout the world. You will need to head to a major village or some of the other camps that you find to find a vendor that will use these materials to upgrade your gear. All upgrades need supplies and some other material. Woods are used to upgrade your bows, metals are used for your swords, and cloth is used for your armor. Your materials can be checked under collections in your menus. The goods section will hold the last couple of things, which is supplies, which is basically the standard currency for the game. You will find supplies everywhere. Flowers can be used for armor and weapon dyeing from the merchants that you'll find throughout the world, and predator hides are used to upgrade how many ranged or quick fire items like the kunar, I think I'm saying that right, kunar, that you can carry. The best way to find materials is by clearing out camps. Wood is very easy to find because most of the game is in a forest, but by clearing out the Mongol camps, especially the larger camps, that will net you a fair amount of materials, as there'll be heaps of it littered around the camp, and as well as once you complete it, there will be a nice little bit at the end. If you don't want to do this though, you can also trade materials at a trapper, which are usually found at camps. You can trade your supplies for the various other materials that you may need. Combat tips. As mentioned earlier, but just to reiterate, as you complete various tales, you will net you different upgrades for Jin and new tools for him to use throughout his journey, so it is worth doing this and it will help expand the range of abilities that you have. If a fight is getting out of hand, you can use the kunai or your other ghost abilities to quickly slow down the pace of the fight, as it staggers enemies and helps push them away from you. If you also want to slow down the fight even more, you can actually slow time by switching stances. By holding R2 with the trigger, it will slow time for a brief moment, allowing you to survey the battlefield. Enemies have two health bars, a white and a red health bar. The normal enemies that you'll see out in the world, you won't see these health bars unless you do specific damage to them, but you will see them in boss fights. Up the top, there'll be a white bar and a red bar. The white bar represents a enemy's stagger health, which can be broken to stagger the enemy and inflict more actual health damage, and the red one is obviously for your health. During some of these boss fights as well, or some of the larger fights, there are moments where you will lock swords with the enemy and give you a brief moment of time. During these times, it is a perfect time to heal because you are stuck in this animation and you don't actually get that little heal animation. It's a really good way to keep your health up and just give you a brief second to refresh during those fights. When you defeat a leader enemy who has one of the other stances, you will learn about this stance. You have to do this a fair few times and an increasing amount of time to unlock the extra stances. There are 4 stances throughout the game that you can use this to unlock. If you like playing as the ghost, you can sneak around a camp and find this leader enemy and observe them as they're wandering around, and this will give you an extra unlock so you can actually get double when you kill that enemy. There is a technique you can unlock called double dodge, which allows you to dodge further away from enemies. I actually found this to be more of a hindrance than a good thing because I'm one to just spam the dodge button and it actually puts you further away from an enemy so you can't actually counterattack. It's better to single dodge to sidestep and then you can swing and actually counterattack. The only time I really use the double dodge is to quickly get away from enemies or to move closer to bowmen that are usually further away in the fight. It's a good way to close that distance quickly and avoid the arrows. Speaking of the bowmen, it is a good idea to take out the archers at the start of a fight, whether it's by ranged or by using some of your ghost abilities like the Kunar or sticky bombs, which is one of my favorites. Miscellaneous tips. You can sheath your sword by swiping right on the D-pad. It took me ages to figure this out and I wondered why Jin never put his sword away, but you actually have to trigger the animation. He will clean the sword and put it away. There is no camera lock on. I'm sure we've all figured this out by now if you are playing the game. There is no way to lock onto enemies, which is actually a pretty big hindrance, especially in a game made in 2020, in my opinion anyway, and a game like this where you really want to focus on the enemy that's in front of you. It takes a bit to get used to move the camera as you're fighting, but once you get used to that mechanic, it's not too bad, but you can actually change the different camera modes. In the options menu, there is a different camera modes, cinematic, slow, default, and fast, where you can change how fast the camera will move. It's not a huge difference, but if you're struggling with the camera, this is something that you can use to either make the camera move faster or slower, depending on your preference. It's there, and it's not going to solve the lock-on issue, but it's just worth mentioning. If you are playing on the PS4 Pro, it is recommended to use the resolution mode because this game is, for one, it's beautiful, but the game is well optimized. I've been playing it both on my PS4 and my PS4 Pro. The footage you're seeing here is on my standard PS4, and on the Pro, I've had no issues with frame rate. The game is beautiful on a HDR TV. Like, honestly, the particle effects and the leaves and everything is fantastic. The final couple of tips is things you learn the hard way, one of them being fall damage. It is egregious in this game. For a game that you do spend a lot of time moving around, climbing cliffs, the fall damage in this game is extremely punishing. So be very careful jumping off tiny ledges, as Jin will basically break his legs every single time. The last tip is that be careful around your horse. If you do accidentally swing your weapon, your horse won't be too pleased with you and will run away. It's not all bad though, as your horse will come back in about 15 to 20 seconds. They will just run away from you aggressively for a little while. And that, my friends, is all of the tips for Ghost of Tsushima. This is a fantastic game. I'm probably also saying the name of the game wrong, but you can all complain about it in the comments below and tell me what you think about this game as well. It's a great time. I'm really enjoying it more than I actually really thought I would. It's a perfect open world experience to me. I love these kind of immersive open world games and I can't wait to play more. Thank you for watching this video. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter and on Twitch, where I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday Australian night times. Hope to see you guys there. Thank you for watching. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.